Because we need the back
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here again with the issues concerning men and parenting. This is the Dimpers Lounge. As everyone knows, we talk about issues with the family, with the kids, with our wives, with our children, with our mothers and everyone. And today, we're here to talk about different topics so far, and it's mental health and awareness. I don't know about what you know about mental health, and there's so many issues that's going on. It could be linked with our mental status. It could be linked with what happens in our home. It can link with what happens with our children, how we speak to our children, and how we also communicate with our friends. I have a special team here who are going to introduce themselves and talk to about today to find out exactly what is about mental health and what we understand. My name is Odeno Dimpa, and
I'm Beta, mental health practitioner.
Joe Mensah, mental health social worker.
Joyce Mensah, I'm a psychiatric nurse and a family therapist.
Thank you, Joyce, Joe, and Beta. If you have any questions regarding this show we're going to do today, I know there's so many people out there who want to talk to us, want some insight about mental health. Our number is still displayed on the screen, and you can contact the number via WhatsApp, but the lines should be open when we're ready. We'll let you know when the lines are open, and then you could call through. Or you can send us a text message or an email or Facebook Messenger. We're here. But what we ask of you, as you watching me, right, or watching everyone here, is to click on the share button and like as well. So everyone that you have, or everyone that's watching this show, to know there's something that's going on here. I will start with the issue about, the question about mental health. When we say mental health, what is mental health?
There can be good or bad mental health. So one will ask, what is a good mental health and what is a bad mental health? A good mental health, in my opinion, is if someone has got a sound mind. We all have mental health, just as we say physical health. So there's a physical health and there's mental health. When you've got a good mental health, then it means your brain is functioning as is expected. But when you've got a bad mental health, then there is impairment or disturbance in the functioning of your brain.
Wow. Joe?
Yeah, I think Beth has covered most of it. It's yeah, she's right. Mental health could be looked at from two perspectives, be it positive or negative. But I think it's how we derive what it is that makes someone experience bad mental health, or indeed what is not so good. So generally speaking, we all got something, mental health of a sort, be it good or bad. If there's a deviation from what is usually the norm of having a good mental health, then we look at having or developing some sort of mental health problem.
So, if I heard you right, you just said good mental health. Is there something called good mental health?
That is.
I'll come back to that.
Right, sure.
Do you want to have anything to add?
Because I guess when you hear mental health, the connotations are a lot. When you hear mental health, you hear mad, you hear crazy, you hear somebody going naked on the streets, and especially people will say this person has got mental health. And as Bertha said, if you don't have mental health, then you are not in existence. You have to have some level of mental health as part of your physical health, as part of your emotional health, as part of your sexual health, to be a whole person. So I guess when people say mental health or someone has got mental health issues, what they are saying is there is something wrong with their mental health.
Oh.
It's not that you don't have, everybody has to have some level of mental health.
If you said everybody has to have.
Everybody has to have mental health.
Hey, today's today.
Yes. But the general connotation that we hear a lot on the street when they say somebody has got mental health, they want to say there's something wrong or there's some issue with their mental health. But that is not the correct connotation. Everybody has to have some level of mental health. So as Bertha explained from the get-go, is your mental health either good or bad?
Oh.
Okay. But you have to have it.
Oh, you
like
have
your physical health, you have to have good health or bad physical health. You have to have some level of mental health.
Okay, we'll come back to that, but I think with our community, that's the reason why I asked if there's a good, anything called good in there. Because with our community, we don't, we think about, we hear the health, we hear the awareness, but that word mental health is like ting 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 ting. And that is between especially our community. So what makes our mind go into thinking that mental health is just something? You and I know what I'm talking about.
So in our community, we generally would generalize that you're either mad or not, and it is not somebody who is wielding an axe in the streets or someone naked, chasing after people that we would say he or she is mad. Okay, so that's why Joyce mentioned this, the connotation. So you might start off saying, "Oh, he's mad." Okay, research shows us that 1 in 4. So as for here, one way or the other, one of us has got something.
It's gone down to 1 in 3.
Oh, hold
it's
on.
gone down to 1 in 3. There you go. They give you the stats.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3.
Mad.
Okay, not me. Yeah. I'll come back to that. So what triggers it?
It's quite wide, isn't it? And there's so much about it which is known, yet a lot more unknown. Okay, so it's a combination of many factors. To begin with, we've got psychological factors. So it could be emotional abuse or something you've suffered before. It takes perhaps a divorce. It takes perhaps losing someone in your life, okay, to trigger something. Okay. Equally, you might have somebody who perhaps for one reason or the other, be it genetically or within the family, the likelihood of perhaps a family or a parent who suffered schizophrenia, the likelihood of a child within that family experiencing similar as perhaps a parent or someone within the lineage, the likelihood is there. So that is much more to do with genetics. Okay, that is not fully explicable because it's still being researched into, but then you can't dispute that that doesn't have an impact on people's mental health. Equally, we've got other environmental factors. It could be living in a poor part of town. It could be not being exposed to school. It could be anything, any good schools or any lifestyle choices and stuff like that. So there's a combination of factors, and we can't look at it in isolation.
Oh.
The trigger could also be stress. It can be anxiety.
As little as that.
It can be as lack of accommodation. Because there are some people that they struggle with the stress level. It could be something tiny and how the individual.
So if I ask something tiny, you just said it could be stress, it could be anything else. So give us an example example of, I mean, there's some, that's why, I mean, Mr. or Mrs. watching me now don't know about mental health. And they don't even know what triggers it. And you just said stress, and you just said, I mean,
stress.
What about depression as well?
It's all, someone can be depressed. It's also a whole, depression is a type of mental illness, which if we go in now, we probably will not be able to finish. And then people can be depressed because of different reasons, and which is part of the trigger that we are talking about. Because someone can be depressed because of lack of sleep.
Okay.
And that sleepiness can make you stressful, because if you have not been able to sleep for a number of days or weeks, then you will not be able to function during the day. And that can lead to you feeling low.
Okay.
And that lowness is what, if it prolongs, is low mood, which will make you become depressed. And also another trigger is if somebody hasn't got a structure to their day. What we mean by the structure to your day is not working. Okay. If you're at home and not working or not doing anything, then at the end of the day, there's nothing for you to get up for. So if lack of job can make someone prone to depression, and that is a trigger or a stressful. And so that is something that can also have anxiety. If they don't have money, some people can be anxious. Anxiety is what if. There are some people that they struggle. So everything, they look at the negative. Okay. So what if this happened? What if a car hits me now? What if I'm not able to pay my children's school fees? Although this is not, we're not talking about school fees here. Or what if the medication that is being given to me, it will not work for me? What if something happens to my children?
And so that's the...
It's anxiety. Yes. And that the more the anxiety it gets higher for you, such that you are not able to control it anymore, then it's become a disorder, which affects your brain, and it's a mental illness.
So, I mean, going back to stress, so you have stresses, as Betha has started off with, and stress, as we know, comes from all sorts of triggers or all sorts of areas of our lives. When we bring it down to science, we need some amount of stress even for me to be able to sit down in this chair. If there's no stress stopping me, I can fall through this chair. So like the mental health in itself, there's some level of stress that is good to help you to function, because you are in that mood of, I want to achieve this. So it's always the straw that broke the camel's back. How much stress can I, as an individual, contain and function daily in my normal day-to-day tasks? How much stress can I contain? And that's why it's from individual to individual. So somebody can, and as Betha said, it can be something very little. And it's maybe not that something little, but how much stresses have you already contained, and what was the last straw then that broke your back? So we are all at a very normal, everyday to-day life. I'm managing stress to a very large degree. I don't want to miss my bus. I want to catch the 7:05. I want to catch the 8:05. I don't want to miss that tram at this time. I want to go there, especially those days when we used to clock in. I want to get there and clock in before it's 9 o'clock because I don't want to dock. All these are little stresses that we manage on a daily basis, almost without knowing. It's when it gets to that level of stress where you then begin to notice changes in your day-to-day functioning. I am stressed so much so that I cannot sleep as much as I used to sleep. I am stressed so much that I cannot eat and enjoy the food that I used to enjoy. I'm stressed so much that I don't want to talk to my friend. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to blank out the world. I am stressed so that I ignore everybody around me, my wife, my husband, my children. It's that level of that extra something that makes your everyday to-day thing that you used to take in your everyday normal stride. When you begin to struggle with those things, that is your cue.
Okay, so I want clarity here. I mean, as my sister and my brother there watching us now, I want want you to tell us the difference between, you know, that mental and that stress mental. I mean, what's the difference?
It's related. So try and forget about the word mental for now, because what we are saying is everybody to a degree has to have some mental health. So what we're going to say, at what point does it veer into becoming a disorder, as Betha said? So forget about the big words, depression and anxiety and all that. Put that on the one side. At what point do I recognize that there's something going off with me? I am not my normal self. When I wake up from bed, I feel I've slept 8 hours, but I haven't slept properly. Or I usually sleep through 6 hours, but now I see every hour I cannot sleep. I wake up, my heart is beating. I'm fearful of what's going to happen in the day because I don't know what's going to come, because I can't plan, or I don't know what, because you have something going on that you have not realized how to resolve it. There's something facing me. I don't know where to turn to, who to turn to resolve this. Suddenly, your child who is very good in school, today you are being called to school, tomorrow the teacher is calling you, next day the headmaster is calling you. What is going on? What is changing? What is causing that change? So you and I cannot immediately know what the trigger is, but that's where we come in.
Whoa.
You come and find us, and we have been trained in such a way that we can, through some questioning, work with you to find out what's changed in the last week, what's changed in the last month, what's changed in the last year, what even went on as a child that is now affecting you now. Wow. So the trigger is a myriad of triggers, but it all starts off with that S word. Stress.
Stress.
You will notice it in some form of stress, some way, somehow, which will then begin to impact on your everyday today functioning. So we are looking at how your everyday today functioning to some level is reducing in one way or the other. That's the first things to look at.
Joe?
Yes, and it goes back to how we started, what it is that makes a good mental health. Any deviation from that takes us to having poor mental health. Okay, so we all have some stress of sorts going on. It's our ability to actually to manage it. Okay, our tolerance level for managing situations vary from one individual to the other. So whatever, perhaps I might find out, oh gosh, I'm going to lose my job tomorrow.
Wow.
I've got to have something, and I haven't got a pension. How am I going to live from day to day beyond when I get my last paycheck? In much the same way, somebody who is much more resilient would say, well, whatever would happen will happen. If it comes, I'm going to find something else. But you realize that people cope differently. And these are things that actually keeps us open to having a full-blown mental disorder or being exposed to something that we cannot easily control. And Joyce highlighted that earlier, that, you know, it's how we cope with the stress. It's how we cope with the stress. So somehow we're all exposed to it in a way or the other, one way or the other.
So do you have like something like an example? Just give us an example of someone that's, from that M to X. Can you give us an example?
Yes, I can give you an example. For instance, if somebody is at home, like a marriage, a family, and they are finding things stressful in terms of issue with the marriage, maybe lack of communication, there's a lot of things that are unclear. And some men may decide that things are very difficult for them. Instead of how they want to cope with it is probably resort to drinking. So they will start drinking more. The issue about the drinking is I get drunk, it blocks everything, so I come and sleep and I don't remember anything. Someone can also choose to start taking drugs. Because it can help in the short run. So they can decide that, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Or can decide as a result, I'm leaving home. Without realizing the impact it's going to have on the family. So if this continues, that there's issue at home, you have not been able to cope with it, to help to manage the situation at home, but you have decided, oh, this will help, or as a result, you now don't come home early anymore. When you finish work, you've got some friends that you hang out with. It could be smoking or doing anything that you want to do or you think would help to escape you from the situation at home. If that continue at such a level that you continue drinking alcohol, you're now not able to control. You used to drink maybe 1 lager, you are drinking 3 or 4. You used to take drugs, you are taking more of it. So all those things will give you what we call drug-induced or alcohol-induced something, such that at some point you are no more able to control your brain the way it should function as you used to do. So you may come home and even talk to your own child in a way that you shouldn't talk to the child. which will be a form of emotional abuse to the child. But you may not see it. You may end up fighting or assaulting your wife or talking in a way which shouldn't happen in front of children. So if that happens, then you've kind of lost control of yourself. And that is where we will come in as mental health practitioners to think about what has happened, because this is not your normal way. You used to get out, go to work, come back, but suddenly you are not in control of yourself anymore, which started with something trivial from the beginning, lack of communication, unclear issues in the relationship, and suddenly it has escalated to this because the way you decided to cope or how you thought would help was the drinking, rather than seeking alternative or positive coping mechanism.
Okay. So
is that clear?
That is, I'll come back to you. You're watching me, right? I know you were listening to everything that's coming on here. There's too much information in my head now. I think I need an extra baggage for all this information is here. I'll be asking you. The Person Lounge will be asking you to share this program, because there are a lot of people that want to hear or know about this program we're doing today. I've asked a lot of people to call in and also tell, because they called me and told me about the issues they have with their mental stages. I told them I'm not a doctor. There's people here who are qualified, who are going to help. But listen to this question I'm going to ask you guys. When you're talking about, I listened clearly, but you just mentioned something that I want to reflect back to it again. Are you saying every married couples are stressed?
Oh no! I was saying that when there is
no, the reason why I asked that, because I don't want to mention your name, but you know yourself. Everyone or most people that you speak to, right, in their marriages, right, they're gonna tell you it's stressful. I'm not happy. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So does that link to?
No, I think there's issues in every marriage or relationship. But we are talking about where it got to the stage that you are not able to resolve the issue at home.
Okay. So every marriage is a
No, can I come in here?
Yeah, I want you to come in there.
And I'm going to use my veto as a family therapist. We are not talking about marriage.
Oh, I understand.
The example Bertha gave was just, for example, if you are coming from a marital background.
Yeah.
So we are talking about stresses and things that can cause or provoke a decline in your mental health. And we are saying one of the main things that can cause or contribute to a poor mental health or a decline in your mental health is stress and how you cope with stress.
Okay.
So the main thing we are saying is the stresses come in different forms, shapes, sizes. Always. Now you turn on your TV and you hear children as young as 5, 6 reporting stress. Stress from social media, stresses they are getting from communications they are getting, which turns into something else, and for them needing to have professional intervention. You are talking about adolescents who have all these body identity images and everything. They are all different forms of stresses. So we are talking through a whole life cycle, from children to young children to adults to teenagers to single parents to married couples to young men to older men. Some people finding even occupying themselves when they are retired. After working all their lives, when they are retired and they have nothing to do, suddenly they find new stresses. So we are talking about being aware of your stresses, the symptoms. I hopefully, for me today, if we don't achieve anything, but we are able to get people to become aware of the symptoms of stress and when it's becoming too much to get help. Because that is always the starting point. Whatever shape or form the decline is going to be in, whether it's a full-blown psychosis, it's a full-blown depression, that's what I'm saying. Let's leave those to the burners, because those are bigger topics. Yeah. For the baby steps now, how do you tell when something is too much, when you are not coping?
Well, I'll come back to you there, but could you tell our viewers about where to go for?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. The first thing to do is talk.
And who do you talk to?
Find somebody to talk to. This is the first thing. So even before we say talk to your GP, the first question I'll ask you, do you have a confidant? Do you have a trusted girlfriend? Women, we talk. So sometimes it takes us a while before we manifest mental health issues because we will talk anyway. Whether you want to listen or not, we will talk. Because in our job, we find that not having that space to talk is usually the first thing. So it can be talking to your friend, your family members, your husband, your wife. If you're a child, your mom, your dad. Being able to talk, and that's why Betha was saying lack of communication, because it's also some of the easiest things or first points where you can stop stress is building. People go to church, they talk to their church mothers, they go to their church, people go to Kuo in our society, your Kuo mothers, your Kuo friends, your buddies you drink with, you guys when you meet, because guys, you don't talk. You want everybody to see that I'm macho, I'm it. There's nothing wrong with me, so you don't talk. You keep it all in there until, remember what I said, the last straw, and then you can't. So the first point is talk. If you can't talk to somebody and immediately you find an outlet. I was struggling with this one. Oh, have you tried XYZ? I was struggling with my son. Oh, have you tried XYZ? I was struggling with my daughter. Have you tried XYZ? I'm struggling with my wife. Have you tried XYZ? It's always a starting point. Of course, if you can't talk and you don't have anybody to talk to, then in this country, the first thing we say, go to your GP. Your GP then would signpost you to other places where you can still avoid having a diagnosis, as in go to online. There are online sites you can use, services that you can use. There's so many things, but I think what we will do is probably write them down at some point, and then you can put it out there as to where people can go. But the first point is recognize that I am stressing. Recognize that lately I am not sleeping. Recognize that lately I'm not eating well. Recognize that lately your friends have called you, you haven't responded, you haven't returned their calls. What's going on?
And it's interesting you make that point, because what we find is that not many people realize this themselves. Other people are in denial, or they don't know, or they haven't made the observations themselves. So, you might start off everyday life, you're able to wake up, get about your normal business as anybody else would. But it takes perhaps something not going particularly well for you to sort of withdraw. Okay, so you used to go out, now you can't go out, you've lost appetite, you don't want to see friends, you don't want to talk to your wife, you just want to be alone. So whatever it is that you think is good for you, that is where perhaps you would be doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing the right thing. So it's about being aware, or indeed someone pointing it out to you. Have you noticed this? Can we talk about it?
All right. So I'm just going to put myself in this. I don't want to go out. I don't want to answer anybody's call. I don't have any appetite. I'm giving myself a life break from everything. Is that classed as a stress as well?
Obviously, yes, there's something wrong and something happened to you, because this is not you. When I mean you, this is not your usual lifestyle. So someone close, in this case, you are not aware of it. So you will not be able to seek for help. So you need someone closer to you who will be able to say to you. And it takes someone who will be bold enough to be able to talk about you. To be able to come to you and say, I have seen this, that you're not sleeping. You've cut off from everyone. I'm really not sure what is happening. And I think if there's anything going on, talk to me. Because sometimes just offloading what is going on in your life, the informal. I know it's difficult because of trust, because you are not sure whom you're talking to trust and where they are taking that information to. But that is a starting point. If you're behaving like that, not talking to anybody, then obviously there is something wrong. That sometimes it does help if somebody is able to approach to you, talk to you about it, and then you get that self-awareness, which is a kind of a self-tool, which can help you to realize, hang on here, what am I doing? And that can help you to recover from that immediate issue that you find yourself. But if it becomes ongoing, then we will be recommending see your GP, who will be doing the first assessment before you come to secondary service.
All right, that's good. Thank you. I want to ask this question. I want to throw it straight to Joe. Why do you think men don't talk?
I don't have the answer, but how I see it is that it's the physiological aspect of man that men say little, okay, or we feel that emotionally we are able to, but you do realize that it's this much, be it ego, be it emotions, but that is, you know, the nature of man. I suppose I don't have the answer to that. What I will say though is that women talk, okay, that is how they're made up, okay. Men have that sense of bravado. It might be empty, it might be of substance, but it may portray that, you know, we manage, this is what men are built for, but underneath it, half the time there isn't much there. So it's almost like, on the surface, I would like to show that I'm in control, but you may not necessarily be in control. So men don't talk much, but I suppose it's that sense of bravado.
You just say much.
Well, much. But now I'll say some do talk, but it depends on who they talk to. Let me cite an instance. We know the majority of people who have PTSD in this country, particularly are of military background, right? Okay, so the military machine is built to make you strong or to show you strength. Okay, so it's a no-go area. We don't talk about it. I'm strong. Even if I'm suffering, I've got to put up the face that I'm strong. But underneath it, there might not be anything there, and I'm rather struggling within. Okay, so that is there. But you do realize that as soon as they come out of service, because of the fact that they haven't talked about it or been in denial of it, okay, they lose control, and something that was here all too soon becomes there. So they drown in it, and it's at that point it probably will be fully blown, and then they have to start all over again with or without the necessary support. But just as, you know, colleague said here, if you mention it, if you talk and you've got the right direction, you'll be able to manage those emotions, those stresses better, and be able to be in control. It's all about being in control, okay, your resilience, okay, and you recognizing that this is a struggle or a space that you haven't got much control over, and getting the right help.
Can I address that main issue? And this I can address.
I didn't know you were a man once before.
I address this issue. That's what I'm going to explain. Okay. I want to address this main issue from my background in family therapy. No. So we come from a society where we have very strict gender roles. You are a woman, you grow up, you do this is your expectation, and you are trained right from childhood that this is the expectation of a woman. You are a young man, you are trained, you need to play with cars and climb trees, and you're not supposed to cry, and you know, very typical thing in an academic mention, and that is what you've known. So you're, by virtue of the upbringing that we are given from our very homes, we are taught that a man ought to present a certain facade, and a woman needs to present a certain facade. So you are socialized. You're growing up as a man thinking, I need to be strong. I don't need to show weakness because I need to be there. And if you're unfortunate and you're coming from a home where you are the only male, then I've got to be the man in the house, even if I'm 5 years old or 6 years old or 7-year-olds. So you have even young boys who have learned that because I'm the man in the home, this is what is expected of me, and therefore I need to be that strong. So if there is any explanation as to why men do not talk, it's just because of the way they are socialized, right from baby to becoming a man, as in, this is my gender role, and they're very strict roles. This is the expectation, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to become, this is how I need to behave. And it's all at the upbringing. Socialized.
Did you say socialized or brought up?
Socialized is part of being brought, as in, this is the cultural thing that you've been grown into, as in, this is how things should be.
The environment that you've been exposed to. So as you know, she said, you know, however many times you fall, you don't have to cry. You don't have. It's about that, and you know, just right. It's a facade. It's what you've been exposed to and made to think. Okay, so it's that social molding of what a man should be like. But I'll say, looking at man is what you see, but what is within the emotional aspect of man is what we try to bottle. That is what we try to bottle, and that is what I suppose makes us different from women, because women are likely to talk about their emotions much more willingly than would of men.
So, how do you maintain a healthy mental state?
I guess it goes back to the same things we've been trying to talk about. So once you're recognizing the immediate variables we are looking at to say you have a bad mental health state. The immediate variables is the basic things we talked about: your sleep, your diet, how you enjoy things as in related to your mood, and watching out for any unusual behaviors that would come up as an addition to your normal day-to-day. Those are the basic variables. So in the same way, if you want to maintain a good mental health, then you want to be paying attention to all those basic variables. Am I sleeping enough? Am I eating well? Am I socializing enough? Am I exercising enough? Am I doing the things I need to do? So it's vice versa. The same things that will give to show that your mental health is declining, they are the very things that you then maintain to make sure that you are maintaining a healthy mental state. So you have meaningful, and Betha touched on it right from the get-go. Yeah. Do I have something to look forward to? You know, some of the things that break us, and again, going back to my family therapy, is, have I achieved all I set out to achieve in life? A lack of actualization is the word we use. It's a big word. But all that it means is, by the time I'm 30, for a woman, I wanted to have been wedded, I have my husband, I have my children, 2.4 children in a car and a home and things, and I'm 28, I'm going 30, and I'm not giving, I don't have anybody, you know, the science starts. So being aware of all of those things. So it's very, very simple things: sleep, eat, exercise, socialize, talk to people, and you're fine.
Whoa.
Very simple, isn't it?
Very simple.
As ABC.
It's that simple to you. It's that simple to you, but it's not everyone that, I mean, as we're saying that, not everyone understands the word mental health. Because the moment, especially where from, when you mention mental health, is two things connected to mad. So could you tell us the difference between the mental health and mad? And just for our viewers to know, this is word or difference or togetherness or whatever it is. Because when you mention the word mental health, why they link it with that MAD. That's it. They end there. They don't want to know. And especially, come to Joe or come to myself, guys, we don't want to hear it.
Okay. I think when we talk about mental health and madness, before I say that, I think Joe mentioned about PTSD. So someone may ask, what does that mean? It's post-traumatic stress disorder. So that was something I just wanted to bring across. And when we talk about madness and mental health, in my opinion, it's a word that is used interchangeably. Because in Ghana, we look at everything as mad, because we are not used to mentioning the word mental health. But when somebody is mad, it means that their mental health is poor. Because as I said from the beginning, definition of mental health is impairment or disturbance in the functioning of the brain. Yeah. So when your brain is not working the way it should be working, then it means you are mad. Mad means that you are not behaving the way.
I beg to differ from that.
Yes. I would say it's use of language.
Yes.
Okay. It's much more to do with language.
Yes.
For instance, coming here, I mean, where we come from, our background, you know, you're either mad or not. You are bad or good. Okay, so it is how we derive what is good from bad, or what is not so good from what is good. Yeah. Okay, I hate to use the word, let's say, bad mental health. It's not so good mental health, rather than, you know, bad mental health. So we've all got something. That is why we come back to the question: what is good mental health? Okay, what is good mental health? So if there's any deviation, when you cited that example about you saying that, well, it is my choice not to connect with friends, and then I choose to stay at home, and that you wouldn't be doing that otherwise if you felt that you didn't have to do that. Okay, but there are triggers to why you are doing that. There are triggers to why you are doing that. It might not be easily explained by yourself or to us, but we know that you wouldn't be doing that if you had your own way, if you see what I mean. So in much the same way, we start off with something. So I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I've never done that. What we need to realize is that we had a life before the illness came. So it's about recognizing what is good life, and any deviation from that, perhaps giving you signs that things aren't going particularly well for you.
Wow.
And then you get in the right health. So be it mad or mental health, the broad subject is mental health. And within mental health, in Ghana, for instance, full stop. We don't have anything between schizophrenia, any mood disorders like bipolar, schizoaffective disorder, name the lot. We know that you're either this or that. Okay, but here, when you come here, through research, it tells us that we all have something, and that is why I just highlighted. We start off with something. You might have a good mental health during the afternoon, okay, when you know your tummy is full. Not so much in the morning when you are hungry. So even mental health varies from time to time during the day, or you know, whatever environment you might find yourself in. Because you might find that being at work bored, and then working so hard, less money, you know, you think, what am I doing here? Okay, that might have an impact on how you see yourself, how you behave, and indeed how you tolerate each other and stuff like that. So, you know, a lot of factors play into what we would call good mental health or not so good mental health. But as I said, within our context, we say mad, as opposed to perhaps having something be specific due to symptoms that you may have, and it's within the symptoms that perhaps you might get a diagnosis.
So I want to address that. I want to address that first.
Let me come back to you.
Okay, let me get the
The phone lines are open, and if you have any questions, don't let this important the people to leave before you ask me, because I have no idea. Because I think sitting here is even stress, because we're talking too much. You calling me is going to even make things worse. The number is sorry guys, it's 0044 7944 346028. The number I get is 0044 7944 346028. You could call us now and then ask any question that you think is bothering you. If you have issues and if you don't want anyone to even know, you can still call. If you're Joyce, just say your name is Joe, right? And important people are here. They're going to answer all your questions today. I want to come back to something that how do you guard against stresses and triggers?
How do you guard against stresses and triggers? It's life. You don't guard against life. Stresses and triggers are life. It's how you do life and how you respond to life. So if you have an issue, say a bill comes to your door, you open it up and you realize you cannot pay it all this month. I love the UK. All you do, you pick up your phone, even if it's a mortgage, you tell them, listen, can I have a mortgage holiday? I can't pay this month, but I can pay tomorrow, or I can pay the next day, and I can pay the next day. That is you guarded against some stresses that would have built in the next 2-3 months into something that you cannot manage, that can possibly end you with a diagnosis, because it is a kind of stress that you and I know all you need to do is miss your mortgage 2-3 months and you are in deep whatever, for want of a better word. Okay, so it's managing the day-to-day stresses before they become an issue. Managing your day-to-day things. If you want to really guard against it, then that's what you do. You get a penalty fine on you parking wrongly. They say pay this much before it gets into that much. If you leave that £30, in a year, 6 months time, how much do you get?
A huge amount.
A huge amount. Yeah. Then it becomes a stressful situation.
Can you go on holidays on that?
You can call them and find out. I haven't heard yet, but if you find out, let me know. Let me know when you find out. So it's recognizing that if some certain things that are life cannot be swept under the carpet. Even if you go to drinking, as Betha said, you wake up in the following morning and it's still there. You take to drinking, smoking cocaine, cannabis, you wake up the next day and that is not there. So the key word in our profession is problem solve life. Problem solve is the key thing to guard against mental health stresses. Problem solve that child who will not say or cannot hear no at age 2 before they get to 5, 6 or 7 because they'll become a headache. Problem solve that teenage who would come up and beat every curfew you give them. Put the boundaries in, be consistent. Problem solve the things that are coming your way. Things swept under the carpet will only come and bite you as bigger stresses. So that to guard against it is basically how you do life. Then of course we have the ones that Joe explained can be organically induced. If it's an organically induced depression and there's really nothing wrong, you need to see your GP to start you off on something which a low dose can probably cure it in the first instance. It can be a manic thing, and that's why I wanted to address that mad thing. Now, the reason I want to address that mad thing is that I was hoping we didn't have to go into it today. But the different diagnoses that we have, some of them are have positive symptoms and some of them have negative. Now, the positive symptoms is what we all come to know in Africa as mad, because the person may be hallucinating and responding to things that you and I cannot see and talking to people that you and I cannot see. But the nature of the illness is that they sincerely believe that they are seeing these people and talking to these people, and that's why you see people talking to themselves, laughing by themselves. And the negative side is when you then don't bath, you don't wash your hair. So if somebody has both negative and positive symptoms working together, which is what we see on the streets in Africa, so then they go for days without bathing, their hair is unkempt, and they are laughing and talking by themselves, we say they are mad. But you see, you and I get mad every day. I get mad when I get out there and my neighbor is throwing some rubbish out there and I don't like it. For that moment, I go mad. So this is where the use of that word is coming in. I come home to see you've messed up my home and I go mad. Is the word of the use of the word mad. Have I lost my mental health, or has there been a decline in my mental health at the time? Yes, because I went mad. I screamed, I shouted, I called you names. In that moment or those few minutes or hours, I went ballistic. I went proper mad. But that is not the madness here, as in what we see in Africa. What we see that we call mad is somebody exhibiting the positive symptoms of a mental health disorder, which means really come under the umbrella psychosis, which is what you'd have heard. I think in Africa, the most word we know is schizophrenia, is the most common word. But those are the positive symptoms of mental health disorder that we tend to call madness.
Just to add to the issue about guiding mental health, I think it's come back to what we talked from the beginning about talking. Because it's, as you said, if you have got a bill and until you pick up the phone or you call the mortgage team, you are talking to they would have probably rejected their bill.
Okay.
But because I acted so quickly, but that is what happens if you realize something is happening to your mental health then you need to act quickly if you can. The acting quickly could be doing some action in the form of writing or calling someone. So when you don't do it, then you leave it and you get to the extreme.
So just to add to what they've said already, guarding against something, as Joy said, it's life. It's what you see, and I think the starting point is recognizing it. For some people, they wouldn't recognize it because that is the reality to them. To you, it's nonsense. Okay, so if you're confronted with a situation like that, and it's about getting the person to rationalize why things are the way they are, and then for you to get them to have some understanding, find a common ground, and seeking help. I can't say any more than what they've said about, a bill turning up at your door. You can't, keep burying your head in the sand. One way, one day, it will come back to bite you. So it's about dealing with the situations. And it starts from as little as perhaps starting to talk. And then somebody encouraging you that things will get better, seek help. Or going to see your GP and then say, so take this low dose of this medication. It probably will keep you much more relaxed, and then things might turn around. Equally, it might mean that getting to a combination of things, including talking as well as medication, or you removing yourself from certain situations and then, unpacking the issues and trying to resolve them. Because the sooner you're able to have some insight, okay, the sooner you're able to sort of come to some understanding of why things are the way they are, and then you trying to get help, that is half the problem solved.
So, if as you mentioned about the tablets, they give you, is to calm you down.
Different medications do different things. Just like you might have a headache and they say take paracetamol, might not be able to do this full effect. They might say, okay, try this, try that. Different medications do things differently. Some of them are sort of manufactured to treat A, but in the long run you realize that there are benefits for treating other things as well. I'm not a doctor, so I won't be able to go into medication as it were, but then they've got its own uses. I would say some of them too. How it works is the medication work on what we call receptors. Okay, so when they become a chemical imbalance in the brain, things tend to respond differently. The brain controls everything in this body. So if there's any imbalance, it might be that some medication would work on certain receptors to make it work effectively or to a level. Okay, but medication is for the doctors, so I'm not gonna touch much on that. No. But yes, clearly we've got medication that helps in a way. It helps in a way. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps Joyce will be able to touch much on that.
So how do we deal, or how do you talk to somebody that they're going they're heading this direction?
It's very difficult, especially if a wife is picking up issues about the husband, if the husband is picking up issues, because it's a fine line between them feeling betrayed that you've gone and told their matter to someone. But if you have a trusting relationship and you've always been talking, the key is if you've always been talking and you trust that person, it's easy. But where there is no trust, it is difficult to do that. But one of the things that we encourage family members or carers, as we term them, is to always speak to your GP. Speak to your GP, and like I said earlier, if you have a pastor, if you have a church, if you have a senior and an elder community member that the person respects or something, but always the nearest and dearest, try to talk to them first, try to make them aware of the changes you've picked up. Because all you are doing is you are saying, I have noticed X, Y, Z. Have you noticed? Especially with our young sons in the house. They start locking themselves indoors. They're not coming out to join the family dinners. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. Find a way of letting them know that, look, I've noticed a change. The key word is a change. Remember the earlier one we said, it's your ability to function day to day, your normal life. something going off in your everyday life. That's what we're picking up here. So the very first person to pick up of any such change will be your immediate family members who would have picked up or should have picked up. I mean, unfortunately, I'll say this here, we in our community are too busy working so many hours that we don't notice changes in our family members. And that's our fallback. But if we've kept an eye on our children and our families and noticed, because we are the first people that would pick up on the change. And yours is not to sleep over any change and say, oh, just teenage tantrums. Oh, just growing up things. Oh, just the man thing. Oh, if you know, if you show interest, maybe all they are waiting for is that keyword, how are you? How are you is a very powerful word. If I trust and know you and you ask me, how are you? And I trust you, I will open up. I don't mean how are you, really, how are you? I'm fine, really, how are you? 3 times. Because we all know that the first how are you, we don't wait to find out. Really. And the person immediately knows that I've picked up something. That's why I'm asking you 2-3 times. Really, how are you? And then I will know immediately that you've caught on to something with me. I will know immediately that you realize, I'm not my usual smiley self. I know you know, today my hair is off.
So, you know, you've touched on something which is very important, and I'm sure everyone else listening to us. But, you know, we said like from home, and I did bring this up as I said as a joke, but it is something that's happening in most homes, and that's the marriage bit. So, if you know, because if you don't want to betray your other half, and you're not happy, what do you do? Because going to your doctor is also betrayal.
Yeah.
Because you cannot tell me, you cannot just go to your doctor without even telling me that you notice a change in me. And that is you going to your doctor or you going to somebody else. But we notice a lot of people within our community, or what's going on now in this world, is a lot of people don't talk. And even if they want to talk, are they giving out the truth? Or are they saying something for the person hearing me to know that what I did was right, Miwa is wrong? So does that mean we're putting more stress on ourselves or somebody else doing it to us?
Well, I think I wouldn't just focus on the relationship bit, but in general, even having a friend. Because it depends on how the sort of relationship or the friendship you have got. Because if for a very long time, maybe 3 months or 6 months or a year, you have noticed a difference in your friend, they are no more talking to you, or there's a complete change in who you knew them to be, then the first thing will be to try and speak to them. If they resist it, then if they mean that as a good person to you, then you either need to speak to someone else whom you know, if we leave, because you don't want to betray them. But you have actually seen that there's actually something wrong here. And do we want to wait till things got worse so that we can't do anything about it? Or we want to find a way to address it now?
I'll come back to that. I'm a therapist as well. And I've been working with certain groups. As you said, right, ask them 3 times. Sometimes it's not just how are you. You ask some questions 3 times and the answers they give you is different altogether. And in the end, when you go to ask them, the third party, right, also says something else different. So I just want to know that are we putting that much stress on us, and who do we go to? Because apart from your doctor, I'll go to my doctor for myself. Oh, I tell the doctor everything. Did I tell the doctor the truth? So are we helping ourselves when it comes to this?
Unfortunately, I think I get what you are saying, but the thing is, I can only sell you the medicine for the illness that you tell me you're suffering. So if
So
you're
even
not
if I'm lying to you,
unfortunately, that's it. Because unless you have created an island for yourself, and which no man is, you certainly have to have, like we are saying, you certainly have to have somebody you go to. You must have. And if you don't have, it's questionable and it's a problem in itself. And it's diagnosable problem in itself.
if you have one,
Exactly. If you are so much have a social phobia or some kind of phobia that you don't have anybody, that's in itself a problem. That is in itself a problem, because no man was created to be in that state. For God saw that man, it was not good for man to be alone.
So what if I'm coming to you? I trust you. Whether you're telling me the truth or not, I'm coming to you all the time.
Yeah.
But you're always giving me something I want to hear. But in my head, or I know that what you're telling me is not going to help me, but I still have to take it because of the trust I have for you.
I think therapeutic relationship is built on truth to begin with, isn't it?
And trust.
And trust. And it's about you selling what it is to get the right, just like, old technology terms, giggle, garbage out. If you don't feed me with the right information, you might get misdiagnosed. So you'll be diagnosed wrongly, in which case perhaps the medication or the treatment that is being meted out to you wouldn't be the right treatment for resolving the issues you're confronted with. So for instance, if you come here and then you tell me, knowing fully well that you've been smoking cannabis, and I know that cannabis is a problem and is affecting your mental state, and you come and say, well, I haven't touched it. We haven't touched the problem at all, have we? Because you go home and then you're going to touch it. It won't augur well for the treatment to take full effect.
So what if I tell you, because you don't care, but I trust you, and the cannabis, it's okay, it's normal. Do I take your normal, or?
If the question comes to who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to?
That's the first question.
But the thing is,
who are you talking to?
With the issues we're dealing with, I mean, we'll deviate a bit with your questions and what we're dealing with now. Some of the problems we have, especially within our community and within the world we live in now, is I want to be good. You want to be good. It's your job. So you guys know from down to top, or from top to down, about what to do and not to do. There are so many people that, they're out there and think that the people they have as friends or as family or as their doctors, doctors, I wouldn't say doctors, especially with our churches where we go to, right? We've been influenced. So that is also bringing more stress on us, but we don't talk about it. Going back to how we started it, this stress comes, like you said, from before it gets there. It triggers something. How do we solve the issue from here before it gets there?
I think that's what we've just discussed. You mentioned about the guiding too. So
I want us to tackle on that bit, because you know what? It starts from one before we get to the top. So you got qualified on it. You guys were talking about the top.
We are not.
I'm not saying just the top, but I'm talking about basis, as in I'll come to you. I know I'm coming to doctors here, but then somebody comes to me. They know they're coming to their friend. I am telling them a lie.
But that's where I question. Is then first of all, who is your friend? Women, we understand this. I have a friend I'll talk to about my dresses. I'll have a friend I'll talk to about my money.
Different friends.
There's a friend for everything. Exactly. There's a friend I want to cry to. Exactly. There's a friend I'll talk to about my relationship. I won't talk to you about my relationship because I know one or two things, so I won't talk to you about my relationships.
Okay, good.
I won't talk to you about children because maybe you haven't had a child if I have a problem. I won't talk to you about my child's problem because maybe I know your own problems with your child is more than what I'm going through.
That's it.
You understand? So if you are a gentleman, for example, struggling with drugs, why will you talk to your friend who you go to drink and do drugs with? What do you expect? You understand? Yeah. So it's coming down to, when we say who do you talk to? It's exactly that. Who do you talk to? And you have to have somebody you talk to. Now, the beauty about the UK, which I say I love, is that if you don't have any of these people, you don't need to worry. There's a CAB, Citizens Advice Bureau. There are the job centers. There are all these charities around that you can go to. You can go to Mind. You can go to Off the Record. You can go to IAP. We have so many. Salvation Army.
Salvation Army, yeah.
Red Cross. So if you want to protect yourself from your community, I would not say go to your church because of everything else that is going on. Unless you trust your pastor and your pastor has got some counseling and you've trusted or you've worked your pastor for years, his integrity, you can trust, you can do all of that, then go to them. I think, you understand? So we're saying know who you talk to probably is the best word to use there if you are quite concerned, and you must be raising that issue because of what you know, that people have gone to people and gained bad counseling as it is, and therefore, but yeah, krum kasa you can't say kwatri kwaso no atade anu ahwe ne ho enti se wo kwatri kwaso se hye a there was a wish. So what I say is I'm coming to you then to talk to you about clothes, and I have to have watched you and liked something about what you do first. I would want to think that, isn't it? So I think that would address the question of somebody giving you bad counsel or somebody not telling you what. Because if you come to me, for those who know me, they know if you want to hear the truth, then you come to me. If you want to hear the thing as it is, then you come to me. If you want me to dress it up in Father Christmas, then don't come. You understand? So you know, like I said, all of us here know. I can, like you talk to Joe and say, Joe, let me call Joyce. You talk to Betha, oh, let me talk to Joe. We are not the only ones in mental health we know. We know different people. But when it came to it, we knew who to call and who to call on. And that's all we're saying.
Thank you.
And I think it's the same comes even within siblings or family. When you've got an issue, you can any specific issue you can decide, or you know whom to discuss this with, because you even know that, oh, this person, if I tell them this is what they're going to say, so I'm not going to. So you will be selective in whom to discuss certain issues with. So that is how it goes.
And I think it's important that we discern who actually we discuss these things with, because if in doubt, I'll go to the professional, because I might tell something to my auntie who perhaps doesn't have any understanding of what I'm going through. Okay, and Joyce said GP is always there. It's a family doctor, so they are appropriately placed to actually signpost us to the appropriate service or help when we need it. And I think I'm trying to deduce from what you said that it is who you go to tell your story and how things are perhaps misinterpreted, because in our background we tend to interpret things against superstitious background. So if you go to tell something, this is what I'm going through, and then the Osofu would say, it is the witch in your mother's home, then, or come, let me direct you. I mean, hold on a minute. We need to be clear, and we need to be much more astute in how we approach these things, because by telling them, you might not get the right help. It's somebody to talk to, you've spoken to the person, but are you going to get the right help? That is why you've got to know where to turn to when you're confronted with these situations. Church is great, but the church would not necessarily treat what you've got to, what level of treatment you need. And we know, how many quack people are out there, perhaps, so it's about approaching it the right way. It is not to say that it is not there, but it's important that you approach the right people, because if you need money, you're not going to go to the pharmacy, you're going to go to the bank. So in much the same way, if you're unwell or it's got to do with your health, then the best person is a doctor or a therapist, or the doctor would actually prescribe, because therapy in itself is prescriptions. It's what the doctor will prescribe.
So from what I understand now is the awareness is not just about something wrong with your head. It's just about anything that goes on in our life, day-to-day lives. And also, what about work though?
It's part of day-to-day life.
I know, because you could be happy at home, and then when you go to work, right, there's workload, there's some people that you want to talk to. The people that you work with, you don't get on with. you find some people that even when you're going to work and they're coming to the office today, you don't want to be there. Well, and I'm sure all those ones contribute.
Of course.
But as before we go, what are the things that you would say to and our viewers to know that mental health is not just about, as we say, going mad? What can we say for everyone to know and understand properly about this? Because there are some people that you can call to sit here, and then when you call them, you say mental health. No, I don't want to come there because everyone's going to think. Meanwhile, you've noticed something with them, and they should at least express what they're going through. But they think when somebody sees them sitting down here, but they're going to think that they got the MOD.
I think we have to look at it this way. When your arm is broken, you know it's broken.
Exactly.
What do you need? You need to see a doctor. Does it need to be in a cast? Do you need some painkillers? It's about seeking help. But because that is broken and we can't do anything with it, we tend to seek attention. Or perhaps because there's a cut and blood has come out, that one we know that it needs treating. Okay? We don't look at it the same way with mental health. Okay? We don't look at it the same way with mental health. But clearly, as I said, you have this arm to use, now it's broken, okay, or it's bruised, so you need to seek attention to it. That you would do. But with your mental health, you're either in denial or you don't recognize the symptoms. So it's about you being aware. Okay, it's you being aware. And with mental health, I suppose it's how we see it. Okay, you yourself, how you see the difference, how you see the changes in yourself, and then seeking help to actually make sure that things work. Because the earlier you seek help, the earlier you have better chances of getting some of the issues resolved. And that would be far better than leaving it and then, it blowing in your face at the point that perhaps you cannot salvage the situation.
And I think we've mentioned about GP. The other place you can go to could be A&E as well, because it could be emergency. Because if you're GP and you are in a mental health crisis or something's happened to you, A&E, apart from the fact that they've got GPs attached sometimes, they've also got liaison psychiatrists team there who work out of hours. So if somebody comes there because normally if there's a physical health emergency, we quickly rush into A&E. There's a lot of people rush with a mental health crisis also to A&E, or where do they go? So apart from GP, A&E is somewhere too that someone can go. If there's no GP, there is a liaison psychiatrist there whom will be able to see you regarding any mental health issue.
Right.
My final word will be just the ABCs of mental health. Just keep an eye on your diet, your sleep, your mood, and anytime you notice any changes or anything keeping you up, it's time to problem solve that thing. Don't assume the thing would go away by itself. If you don't do anything about it, nothing will change. If you do not do anything about it, nothing will change. So problem solve, problem solve, problem solve, and you'll be fine.
Well, as you all hear, we have the masters here of all, and I think I'm calm now. I'm no more MAD. Mental health has been an issue that, especially within our black communities, we suffered a lot. We suffered so much because of, we not being able to share or talk to somebody else. I think as of now, right, we gradually, people are starting to, being open up to us, they say friends, your doctors. Well, she did mention don't go to your pastor unless you trust them, because all these pastors, you see them out there now, right? They'll be stepping on you, you see on social media. The Impress Lounge is here also. We can also put you together with somebody, who can help you with this situation. Before you do that, please see to yourself, tell the truth. Let us know exactly what's going on within you. Seek to your children, seek to your family, everyone that's around you, your close person around you. You know them from A to B, so you know their movement. And you can tell when issues are going on and there's changes in their lives. This mental health awareness is not a thing that we're going to do it just a day. we've got more to come, and we hope that our next program on mental health, you also listen to this, and also you can also share, or you can also, if you want to ask anybody to watch this as well, you can go to YouTube, the same name as Dimples Lounge. You'll find us there, mental health awareness as we did today. It's going to be there. Thank you very much, Odeno Dimpa, and thanks again, and we hope to see you soon.
That's my